Good evening.
Hi.
How's everyone today?
Good.
Everyone got their heat on? Okay, in this section of the meeting, we're going to have any public participation here. Okay.
So folks don't know me, I'm Nancy Harrison from the LCOC or the outreach. I want to thank Michael for hanging out with me on the 29th when we did that desk giveaway. I think maybe 9 families got something, but I'm just here tonight to make sure we're on track to keep moving along with the removal of that stuff in the building.
That this
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you, and that's all.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that I put something on the school about bullying because it's bullying prevention month. And I did talk to Miss Street today, and I think she said her class, and probably a lot of classes did something, but I did talk to Sarah Atkin in Augusta, and she would be, and she's the head of that, you know, in the Department of Education. And she said that she would be willing to come down if the school was interested in having something. And I don't know what they have planned. But even if they have things planned, and just they have their own school page, just, you know, put it on that page.
Is there anything planned at all?
We sent teachers to the Washington County Harvest of Ideas for teachers attended bullying workshops and brought back resources to share. Terry Murphy does a letter that I have with me that she brings every year at the beginning of the year. We sent grades 3 through 8 to the University of Maine Giants today to watch a performance in Friendly Bar, which is a performance of boat bullying that was planned last spring before the school year got out. And teachers are doing things off and on periodically in the classroom.
Okay. Morning.
And I'm wondering sometime, like, if you guys, I talk to people all the time about the pre-K and K classes, and if, you know, the board could, or the teacher, Ms. Arnold or Mr. Johnson, give a little bit of presentation on how that's set up, how their program is set up. They have 2 rooms, and one of the parents that I was talking to, she said that on her side, I don't know, okay, but Miss Robinson's on one side, and then the other parts on the other children are in. I don't know how it's set up.
To what point you want this?
Well, I think the 2 ed techs, this is what a parent said, has one group, and then Miss Robinson has another group. And what's the setup, you know, with education? Are the students supposed to have a teacher in the room, or do they allow ed techs? And maybe at some point you guys could do a little presentation about that.
Could either one of you address that?
I can have the teacher come in and talk about what she does. Can invite her to the next board meeting.
Is this something that, I mean, you want to present to the public, or?
Well, I think so. Well, even the parent that I spoke to would like to know.
I mean, that parent should talk to the teacher, I think.
If they could, that'd be great.
The parents that are asking you about this?
I talked to, well, I go to the after school program, I'm down there, and of course, there's a lot of, you know, the younger kids that go to that program.
And they're concerned that there might not be a teacher involved in there or something?
Well, the way I guess it's set up is there's one side, there's 2 rooms down there. And one side's, you know, with pre-K or K, and then the other side's with, you know, I'm not quite sure on that part of it, Mike, and I apologize. But in a school, Mr. Johnson can answer this. Are classes allowed to just have an ed tech in?
Okay, in this case, pre-K and K, you have a combination class. Our instructor, Chris Robinson, has dual certification. She is indeed certified as a pre-K teacher as well as general K-8 certification. So she has dual certification. It is possible when you have a combination classroom to have task rotation as well. So conceivably, and I don't see Ms. Robinson teaching personally every single day, but in combination classrooms, common practice is called task rotation, where she would provide direct instruction to one group, get them working on something, and allow an ed tech to monitor them while she provides direct instruction to the next group. The key there is that we have a certified teacher providing direct initial instruction to both groups. It is possible, however, as you rotate among a multi-age classroom, to have an ed tech follow up to make sure the kids are on task. If there's a question that a child has, they can ask the teacher, and frequently the teacher would provide redirection as necessary. However, there are rules governing what an ed tech can do. For example, an ed tech 1 requires line of sight supervision from a classroom teacher. So somebody who is an ed tech 1 has to have a teacher in the classroom with them at all times, line of sight supervision. An ed tech 2 or 3 can do pull-out services. So conceivably a teacher would provide, and then an ed tech 2 or 3 could work in a pull-out situation, and this is common particularly in Title I. It also happens in special education, but the rule requires the certified teacher to provide direct instruction, and an ed tech 2 or 3 can provide pull-out support, but an ed tech 1 has to be line of sight supervision in the classroom. And that's the distinction between an ed tech 1, 2, or 3. But that's how they work together.
Okay.
Okay, is this something we can have the school maybe put out a memorandum or a notice to the people that have children in those classrooms?
I would encourage the parents to come in and meet with teachers. We've got parent-teacher conferences coming up.
Just to that point, that if they have concerns with this, to actually address that concern to Ms. Robinson.
Similar to the chain of command piece that we did last year.
And so this way here, they're hearing it right from her. And if there's any further explanation needed, we can actually have Mr. Johnson handle their concerns about as far as explanation about ed techs and their qualifications and their supervision.
Thank you.
I have to just say something because I'm involved a little in scheduling. How that to this happened, it's very important, I believe, people, the board to know, is that Mrs. Robinson and the Ed Tech 3 that serves in that role have coming playing time. So I know that there is dialogue going on. I just want to say because it, when you combine classes, you have no choice, but sometimes the Ed Tech has to be in with a group of kids. But there's definitely built-in common plenty times where the teacher and the Ed Tech 3s can have communication. So I just want to say that that's what happens often in our small school.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Barbara?
I have two things if I could ask.
Mhm.
One is, and I apologize if I've mentioned this before, but I understand that there's a writing program where some ladies come down from that are servicing Washington and Hancock County, and they stopped in at the Historical Society just before we closed. And I apologize, I left their brochure at home. But I know they are working with the fourth, fifth, and sixth about a specific book that they are reading, and the seventh and eighth, I believe. The seventh and eighth, and they get the classes mixed up. One is doing a book report or how to write a book, something on a trail. And at the Historical Society, these ladies were very interested and were surprised that the school doesn't come and ask if we have anything there, because we have a display on Myron Avery, who happens to be a native of Lubec, and he is the first person to walk the Appalachian Trail, and I gave them a whole spiel on that, and they were absolutely in amazement, and they were taking that to the school. And the other class that is doing one was on lighthouse keepers and lighthouses, and I also showed them one where Mr. Morong was the first lighthouse keeper to the spark plug, and the Lighthouse magazine at our building did it. He was throughout the country honoring all the lighthouse keepers. And we have a write-up on him. So I know they said they were going to take it to the school, and unfortunately, because the school is closed, I'm not the school of the Historical Society, I don't know if they're able to to reach out to me. But what I'm trying to say is, if the students are writing a book or are writing a book report and having to read a book, sometimes if we make it relevant to people that are in their own community, they might relate a little bit better to help write the story. Last year, we helped Deb Busquets' class with, she was doing music on the Revolutionary War, and we had 165 people from Lubec that were in that, and I presented that to the class, and she said they absolutely loved it. So I'm opening up to the teachers and to the school board to encourage them. All I can say is, no, we don't have anything, but we do have information there that might help a student relate to their own community and to what they are studying or writing on. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Okay, one note I want to ask.
Yes, sir.
Is there something you can put in a brief synopsis of what's going on and actually, get it to the school, get it to the teachers?
Yeah, sure.
Give it to the teachers that, there's an additional resource in town that,
So then I
Might
can come
be
to this, it's all right to go to the school and ask to speak to both of the teachers who are teaching English to those. I'm not sure which one is reading which book. I think it's
that island readers and writers?
Yes, that's the group. Yeah. Yes, I will, Mike. Thank you for that suggestion. The other question, if I could ask, or I noticed in the Bloody Ties in the October 12th edition, I was reading it and it says Pembroke, and then it states that the Maine School Management Association, Steve Bailey, has invited the school board members to attend the Monday, October 22nd informational session at Lubec Consolidated School for review of school committee procedures, as, and they spelled Lubec Consolidated School backwards, has requested one of his 3 members. My concern is, have you finalized, Mr. Johnson, that the AOS is paying for this? Because I know the school board asked, why don't you open it up to everybody? So I want to make sure that the AOS is paying for it. If this gentleman is inviting towns to come, or is Lubec footing the bill for it?
It's undetermined at this point whether or not the AOS is going to be an AOS level function. If it is, and that turns out to be the case, then the AOS will divide up the money. I've been quoted a figure of $295, so the cost is negligible.
Well, I'd still like it shared, but I don't understand why this gentleman, why it's being posed by Melissa Cushing in here, that the Pembroke staff is already invited. So that makes it open to the whole AOS. And I think the whole AOS then, if it's anybody but Lubec board members, the AOS should have to pay for it if anybody else is invited. That's all I wanted to say.
Is that open to the public?
The event, whether it's an AOS level event or an event that is unique to Lubec, will be open to the public either way.
Like, can I, just one more, this is a quick one, about transportation, where, you hear this a lot from the parents and, kids in transportation. There seems to be a real problem with us getting our kids. I think to get them over there, they just don't get them home. I mean, what's going on with that?
You're talking about high school?
Yes.
Okay. We're still running 2 buses in town in the afternoon?
Yes.
Okay, and that puts the other bus going into Machias at what, 3 o'clock?
They finished their run, and at the end of their run, they head right straight to Machias, so roughly.
We're still running an ad in paper for news for bus drivers? Or we're gonna have a bus to put them in?
Pretty much a revolving ad.
Okay, is there a feasible way we could run just 1 bus in the afternoon and get that other bus down for the high school kids earlier?
It's essentially pick your poison. Is it possible to put the elementary kids on 1 bus and make 1 in-town run? It is, because some parents come and get their elementary children themselves. So conceivably, 1 bus could hold them. However, that's a long in-town run, and the result would be the elementary kids are getting home later. So,
We've done it in the past.
we
We've
have,
had, lack of drivers so like that in the past.
I mean, it's a question, I think, of who is best equipped to come home a little bit later. Is it an older high school kid or a younger elementary student? And I would be of the opinion that we were going to hear complaints either way.
How many kids are coming back on the high school bus?
Look, we'll tell you, the same for an extended bus run, we're during an athletic season, because as it was, we really had to call schools to say, will you push us back, will you push us back, will you push us back, because we can't leave until after 3 o'clock to get to a school meet. So with other seasons, we need to figure out a plan about getting games moved later in the night if we're gonna go to one run, because I can tell you right now, it's going to be a nightmare trying to get people everywhere. So I do know that, one of the bus drivers spoke to me about one kid from Machias, just one kid, they're picking up one from Machias. I do not know that to be a fact. I would have to check over to Machias to see if that is a fact. I don't know. I do know.
How much later would the elementary school kids be getting home? We had just one bus.
Last year when we had to put them doubled up, it was somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes.
Well, they stand out there at 6:10 in the morning. The kids right there that early.
And transportation right now is an ongoing issue. It's either buses or drivers, so.
I guess even if they could let the schools or somehow let these kids know, you know, who they've got, you know, we're coming, they're gonna be coming at some point.
Well, I believe, you
It's
know,
October 18th.
now they know exactly pretty much what time the bus arrives at WA and Machias, I know that. And I know there was a question earlier on the first week of school, where there was some lack of communication and so on like that, you know, some people were questioning what was going on, so I think pretty much it's going on right now, people know what time that is. I don't think it's the best situation, technically by law, secondary education students do not have to be transported by us, okay? I mean, my feeling is that it would be great to get them home earlier, but then again, you know, you put 60 kids or 50 kids on one bus in town for 40 minutes, that could be, you know, just as much of a problem, if not more of a problem. So, I know we've done it in the past, and we had to do it because of what reason, you
Emergency,
know.
we have to do it emergencies, and I will tell you, I've heard complaints because right now you've got kids spread out between 2 buses. And let's be honest, kids have been in school all day, and sometimes we have rambunctious kids, and sometimes little kids don't want to sit in the seat. When you get that many kids, you can't see because of the bus, it becomes a safety issue. So I know that some of the drivers, you know, in the past did not like doubling up because they felt they couldn't see and control everything that was going on in the bus.
I mean, one other way we could do it is actually put maybe a monitor on that bus. Then we'll paying more overtime pay or whatever it might be to do that, so.
The other thing I have to say, because you know, I take transportation very seriously, I honestly don't know how in emergency situations we can improve communication, because I know I personally call up those schools, and I personally give the secretary the information, and I put it on the, you know, Facebook, so I don't know how to better communicate to people. I can't get the words over to the students personally, but I know I talk to direct staff when we have to change something. I know I personally call Machias High School and WA. I know I do that, so I just want to say.
So they contact the 2 students and the Lubec students.
I don't know how else we could do it, and I don't contact students, but I ask them to share that, and Machias says, well, I'll share it, I'll, you know, call kids down and I'll talk about it. I don't know how WA handles it, because
Well, it brings up a thing in my mind that, you know, originally when the AOS was formed, that transportation was supposed to be, you know, a joint effort. So, I don't know, we talked to maybe someone to maybe bring these kids to, you know, Whiting Corner,
we can do
and then
that.
pick them up from there, and that might not be a problem if we can get a bus out of town and get to Whiting Corner at, you know, an appropriate time, 2:30, 2:45, whatever.
And we've done that in the past.
So,
Mike, last year there was a discussion that Washington Academy is busing students from Cary from Washington Academy up. I don't know why we can't get our kids on there, like you just said, and drop them at Whiting Corner. We're paying tuition to WA just like everybody else. Mr. Johnson, you look like you have an answer.
that's something to be addressed.
I do have an answer. More than a year ago now, the entire Pembroke board, as well as myself, scheduled a meeting with the headmaster of WA and the chairperson of the board of trustees, who happens to be a Pembroke resident and still is, I believe, to to ask that very question, because there were concerns about Pembroke's budget, and citizens could look at the transportation and say, they were considering only to provide transportation one way, or to provide transportation in town as opposed to their secondary students. So to make a long story short, the Pembroke board, and Pembroke, in case those here aren't aware, has a long-standing, close relationship with WA. Once upon a time, they had successive 10-year tuition contracts because Pembroke historically has sent their secondary kids to WA. So for them to schedule a meeting with WA and say, will you come pick up our kids? That was no small effort on their behalf. The answer from WA was, no, we can't pick your kids up. They stated that the bus didn't have capacity to pick up Pembroke's secondary kids attending to WA, and that was the end of discussion. The bus you're referring to still is operated by WA, still does travel as far down as Robinson, and yes, it does stop at the Perry Municipal Building right on Route 1 and picks up Perry resident students. Makes a couple other stops right along the way, but no other town has been able to get access to that bus in recent years, and that is what the Pembroke board was told.
I guess my question then to you, sir, is Perry was holding something out there that really didn't make sense because they don't have a high school. So where could their students go if they didn't go to WA? Go up to Calais? Or Machias?
They actually go to Shed, a lot of them.
Okay.
More go to WA, but just a handful find their way to Calais.
If I'm not mistaken, in your budget, you said we have 48 students at WA. That's not small change to me.
Well,
and I think it would be beneficial for, if possible, to have the board meet with them and see what they can come up with. We're not asking them to go, they've got to pass us anyhow to get the rest of the way up.
Just for clarification, this year's budget that we're sitting in, you had 30 kids at WA. It's built on 30 and 10. And we've been confirming the numbers this week because we're beyond October 1. And those numbers are proving to be accurate. We confirmed with Machias today, and there are 9.
So there's 9 at Machias and how many at WA?
We projected 30 and 10. We confirmed 9 at Machias. So I don't have the confirmed number from WA, but we did confirm with Machias. So what's in your budget will be accurate, but it's about a 3-to-1 split right now.
If I'm not mistaken, in following WA's efforts to keep the school abreast of what's going on in the area and to keep it flowing, they opened up their school to be an international school. Lee Academy and some of the other academies have followed suit. So in talking to people at WA, they didn't get as many Asian children as they previously did. They went to other schools.
Right.
So they don't want to continue to lose students, especially if it's a transportation issue. So again, I don't know how the board feels about it. I don't know if any of you have great persuasion abilities, but can't hurt to go talk to them.
I would like to maybe see if we can address that issue even on a temporary basis for right now. And providing maybe transportation to Whiting Corner. This way here, these kids won't be getting back into town at 4:30 in the afternoon when it's gonna be dark.
Is any other school in sort of the crisis situation that we're in where both buses are condemned? I understand that everyone has a shortage of bus drivers or did. Apparently a couple of our bus drivers now work for other towns, but we seem to be hurting the worst, especially since 2 of our buses are condemned. And would they take that into consideration?
To answer your question, Eastport had a bus. They were notified that one of their buses will be condemned as of February. Buses have 2 inspection stickers per year. They're inspected every 6 months. Eastport will have one removed from service on February. They have been notified that one of their buses will no longer pass. And I was able to get them an application through the BW program, just as I did from Lubec. The other towns, it is a crisis for all the towns. Here in Lubec, you feel it more acutely because of the distance involved, approximately 25 to 30 miles over to Machias and WA being 4 miles closer. You feel it more because of the distance. Eastport actually sends a bus to Edmond School and picks up some students there, then attends Shed from Marion Township and Edmonds, picks up a few kids on the way in. When transportation became acute in the other towns, because Eastport and their high school receives tuition revenue and quite a bit of tuition revenue at Shed, and they agreed to send the bus. They said, we'll come and get them. So Barbara's point is similar to those lines, that it would be in WA's best interest for the same reason.
Well, I don't want to be hanging a sword over their head, but I'm just saying, even for the short term right now, even if we had another bus, we don't have another driver.
Yeah.
Okay, so either way, we're down to 2 buses. And if we can address the situation even on a temporary basis, maybe for the next few months, dropping these kids at Whiting Corner. I mean,
Mike, the only thing I'd like to interject, if that's what, I mean, if you are able to get that to materialize for the students, you would also have to talk to Machias, because then you need Machias to drop the kids at WA, so they're all on that one bus going back at the same time.
but cooperative effort by probably 2 or 3 communities to get this done.
But if we don't try, we're not, you know, if we did it 3 years ago, go back and talk. I mean, we're paying $+1,000 per student. That's a lot of money. We're not asking them to bring them into town. They gotta pass that corner, just drop them there.
We can address with the school and
So does,
Machias.
we can go a couple of ways. Does the board want me to pick up the phone and speak to either Superintendent Porter in Machias or Headmaster McBride at WA, or do we want to try and schedule a meeting with 1 or 2 of you accompanying me? How would we like to proceed? I don't mind making the calls and asking them. I've done that in the past when we've had an emergency. If the
I
board,
think a face-to-face meeting would be better than picking up the phone.
do any of you have any interest in, you know, in approaching that?
Depending on what day of the week it is and so on like that, and schedules, I can go.
Okay. I will make the arrangements.
And just give me a heads up so we can find out what day it's gonna be. Go ahead.
Well, when my kids went to high school in Machias, there were a lot of students who were driving. And sometimes they'd be by themselves, sometimes there'd be one other person in the car. But it seems like we have other resources, you know, at our fingertips, that maybe we could just be more cooperative and send something out on Facebook or whatever, saying, you know, we have a transportation issue right now. If there's ways that people could double up in personal cars, let's try to make that work.
Melissa, that's not doable for a student, because the new laws for students say that they cannot have a certain age child in the car without an adult for so many months, otherwise they're penalized. So those students can't take another car full like years ago.
But they get their license at 15.
For 6 or 8 months, or a year, they cannot have other students in
16,
that
but they're
car.
in school until they're 18. So,
Yeah, they can't,
but if they're seniors at 18,
but some of them aren't.
And we don't know they're gonna go to
no,
school every day.
obviously,
So
it's gonna take looking at the
Yeah.
details.
we don't really have a big problem getting the kids down there during the morning. The problem is in the afternoon, with going in a private vehicle.
It's to reorganize, I guess you could say, to show cost savings. And that was the driving force behind the formation of RSUs, which is a different organization entirely, but that was the driving force behind it. And indeed, Wanda, you're correct, the state was trumpeting the ability to cooperate, transportation, professional development, purchasing of, bulk purchasing, things of that nature, whether it's paper, flour, bread, oil, whatever, those were operations. The answer to your question is, why benefit greater from that, or why aren't we even benefiting from it now? The answer is still the same, is that, and the reason for the local control. You want to know what Charlotte and Alexandra got the lowest rate in Canada. And if they were to, it would cost them more money. So that high
Actions recommended by the superintendent of schools. Everyone have a copy of that in front of them? for a motion on that?
This is from the DOE, Department of Ed, works school-wide.
That person for absenteeism.
Okay,
Anne Marie will be here to do professional development meetings. Fellowship meeting at 6 o'clock in the cafeteria. I call it the Women's Club. Brady and Julie is a big part of that. There'll be people from fame coming and so on and so forth. That's for seniors. The 9th, we have parent-teacher conferences from 2 to 6, and then others will be scheduled if parents request them. The 11th is early release day. The 12th is Veterans.
not the desks and so on like that. That's the stuff that will fit in the dumpster. And I want to say it's probably going to take a dumpster to do that. Talk to my probably about $300 plus tipping charges.
Mr. Yates around, he said he would take them at no fee for the metal.
First step, appropriated and approval to put a dumpster up. And then we can facilitate getting the stuff. However you want to commit to ripping book covers
Yes,
off.
I just said to Nancy, I'll talk to her after the meeting. I didn't ask it any further. so
This
she
way
can
here.
contact.
What's the drop dead date you wanted this done?
I would really like.
Enough to hire another driver, I think.
Yes, so
What would likely happen is, if we're fortunate enough to hire another driver, probably see a reduction in hours. Truthfully, the answer to that question is, she would not be working the same number of hours if we hire another driver. My office called my attention to it because they can see the number of hours she's billing for. It's almost identical to what Mr. Olson is being. My office called that to my attention just for the sake of consistency between the.
So you would be changing her job status to full-time, as far as a bus driver is considered full-time.
There would essentially be the net effect. She would be eligible for sick time, personal day.
That was, well, we did discuss that.
Well, just
As far as
what,
paying for it and so on like that. I believe in that discussion, the board did discuss of basically having it opened up to members of the AOS. Have you heard from any other members of the AOS interest in this?
Pembroke has got some, as I reported to this board as a group. We have the opportunity to have it customized for us here in Lubec. And I'm looking for a direction from this group this evening.
we have 3 brand new members, then
I've raised the potential for this group of challenges. What I feel is a challenge may or may not be viewed as a challenge by the 5 of you, but the opportunity is there. And that is my point. Because you've got the ability here to have him assist us directly for personal setting, generic kind of workshop for the group.
Like that. Yep. And it was consensus, so that would be a good idea to put it out, you put it at a central location, and like I said, everyone's coming to Lubec. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for the first reading of this, and like I said, it's a lot. Mark it up, look at it, bring it back with your questions and changes and so on like that. This is only the first reading, so it's not going to be adopted tonight. It'll be adopted next week. It may take a couple of minutes to digest all this, so. The first reading on that, motion on that first reading. Okay. Second.
What's the motion?
Motion is to consider the first reading, just the first
The
reading,
first reading.
not this being approved tonight.
Okay. Second.
Is that a second? All in favor? Okay, 5. Okay. Discussion of a website, on our website that we haven't seen yet.